Academy. How are you guys feeling this morning? Say, I'm alive. I'm excited. I'm full of energy. And I'm ready to go. So today we're actually starting something very different here at the Academy, and that's why you see Talia there on the computer, because exactly what I'm going to share with you guys today is what I'm having to do in my own business. So I don't want you to think that anyone escapes. Say, no one escapes. No one escapes. No one escapes from this. So today we're going to be talking about, mastering the buyer consultation process. This is a mini boot camp. I've done many boot camps throughout the years. Just a little bit about me so you understand why I'm passionate about what I do, why I feel that 2.5 decades later, I am an expert in my field. And after redefining myself for the last 4 years, I believe that I am an expert. And the results have proven it. The results of the agents that I now mentor, coach, train, and seeing them 4x, 5x, and 10x their business says, hey, it's working, right? So how many of you are ready to 4x your business? Oh, 4 times more. How about 5x? Okay, how about 10x? Excellent, yes. So that's what I'm going to be helping you today navigate through these uncharted waters. But I want you to know, first and foremost, I am going to tell you about the 3 biggest mistakes that are costing agents deals in this market. Say the 3 biggest mistakes. Like you drank some coffee. The 3 biggest mistakes that are costing deals agents in this market. I mean, listen, if it's happening to me, it's happening to other people. We're not alone. We are not alone. So I'm going to be talking about that today, but I want you to know who I am. I am a person that is committed to transforming driven real estate professionals. Guys, real estate is the business that changed my life. And it can change anybody's life. But you have to have hustle. Say hustle. Hustle. You've got to be a bull. Say bull. Bull. You've got to be a shark that is hungry. Say a hungry shark. Because real estate, listen to me, is a tactical sport. And the problem that we have is a bunch of us are trying to get out there and wing it. Imagine for a moment you are a pro NFL player. Imagine for a moment it is the day of the Super Bowl. Imagine for a moment that you and your team want to go out there and win the Super Bowl. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you've never practiced for the previous 3 months. At what level, and I want you to answer really loud, at what level are you going to play?
100%. No. Poorly.
You have not practiced for the last 3 months. You were eating potato chips and, fruit punch. You were not out there putting, the hustle into your game, practicing, repeating. Now it is the day to go win the championship. Are you with me? Who's with me? Say, I'm with you.
I'm with you.
Now is the Super Bowl day. You walk out on the field without practicing for over 3 months. Bad nutrition, bad information, no grit, no hustle, no preparation, no blood, sweat, and tears. Tell me at what level will you be playing in that Super Bowl? Really loud.
Really bad. Terrible.
Okay, guys, that means everybody. Really loud. Say at a low level. That is the problem in our industry. Our agents are not practicing at a high level. Say high level. Don Shula. Who knows Don Shula? Don Shula said this. You play at the level you practice. Everybody say, I play at the level I practice. I play at the level I practice. At what level are you practicing? So here we go. You guys ready? You guys ready? You got your minds in gear. You kind of saw yourself, I want to go win the championship, what is it going to take? Okay? How am I going to play if I'm showing up and I'm winging it? I don't know the play-by-play. I haven't practiced the play-by-play. I haven't been with my team. I haven't been out in the field. I haven't done what I have to do to prepare. Say prepare. You got to prepare. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm committed to transforming driven real estate professionals into top earners. Say top earners. I empower agents, team leaders, and brokers. I have a superpower for empowering people. I don't know where it came from, but I do not know. It's a God-given talent. All of you have a God-given talent. Have you tapped into your God-given talent? Have you identified your God-given talent? Are you using your God-given talent every single day to close more deals? So I empower agents, team leaders, and brokers to achieve 5-figure days, weeks, months, or years. I don't know how often you want to make 5 figures, okay? But I empower people to do that. And I unlock, say unlock. That's the part I love the most. Taking someone that is totally lost, confused, right? Uncertain, unskilled, maybe with the wrong mindset, with no tool set, with no skill set. And I love empowering them and watching them perform, right? At a very high level. For what? For financial success. Say financial success. Say it like you want it. Financial success.
Financial success.
So, how I do that? I mentor, I train, I coach, right? I give people my 25 years, 2.5 decades, guys. 2.5, listen, there's one of two things you can do. You can either work on getting where you want to go, like I have, for the next 2.5 decades, or you can join my tribe, let me train, mentor, and coach you, and I'll get you there faster. Which one do you want? Either one works for me. Tell me yes, tell me no, I gotta go. That is what a coach does. A coach gets people to where they want to get to faster. And that is another problem our real estate industry has, is nobody has a mentor, nobody has a real, customized, well-designed, premeditated, intentional, trainer, and nobody has a coach. Because we come from a mindset of scarcity. I'm not going to pay somebody to teach me. No, I'll figure it out. Well, how well is that working for our industry?
Fake it till you make it.
Right? That's what they teach us, fake it till you make it. And that is such a hallucination. That is a hallucination. I can tell you right now, it's not fake it till you make it. It's do it until you get it. You have to do it. So we're going to talk today about the 3 biggest mistakes costing agents deals. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to have fun. Say have fun. I want you to write notes. Everybody has a notebook, okay? I want you to make this a sacred moment. Turn off your cell phone. As a matter of fact, let me make sure that mine is off as well, right? Because leaders go first. Leaders lead, right? By example. This is your time. Say, this is my time. I want you to focus. I want you to imagine what's going to happen once you leave here when you start implementing all this stuff. And I want you to be high energy. Say high energy. Okay, that was a good test run. Say high energy. You know why? Because we learn better when we're having fun. That's why, I don't know about you, but in school, I would get very distracted. Anybody else get distracted in school? Why? Why do we get distracted? Because it's boring. The teacher is boring. The subject is boring. The way they're teaching it is boring. The class is boring. It smells boring. It feels boring. So it must be what? Boring. So I don't like people to feel bored in my sessions, okay? Mistake number 1. Guys, listen. I've tested. I've proven. I've contested. I have figured out that our number 1 mistake, say my number 1 mistake. Come on, guys, my number 1 mistake.
My number 1 mistake.
Not enough people know you. What is the population in our area? Who can tell me what the population in our area is? In Cape Coral alone, the population is around 257,000 people. That's only in Cape Coral. In Fort Myers, Lee County, this area over here, it's another over 400,000. How many? We have 1 million people right around us. How many people know you? And how many people know you're in real estate? And how many people do you talk to on a daily basis? But Lucy, I have no leads. No, you don't have intention. Write that down. I must have intention. You guys are here because I have had the intention to launch my second part of this boot camp. You are here because we put hustle behind it. You are here because we put a lot of grit behind it. You are here because we went out and we blew it up in the market. So the number one mistake that is costing you deals right now, so it's costing me deals.
Costing me deals.
It's costing you money. If you're not nose to nose, face to face, belly to belly, toes to toes with people every single day, you're not making what? Say money. Money. You must become the voice that people trust. And this is where I want to take you on a little story. How long did I say I've been doing this for?
25 years.
2.5 decades, 25 years. Do you think that I would be in real estate at the level that I am at if people did not know who Lucy is?
No.
When I moved to Cape Coral in 1996 with 2 little kids, never having been in business, I didn't even know how to sell water to a dehydrated person in the desert. Like the person could be dying of thirst. I would be too scared. I would be too, timid. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the skill set, the mindset, or the tool set to go say, hey, you're dying of thirst. I've got water. I'll sell it to you. I was too scared. So your problem and my problem is we need more skill sets. Say more skill sets. More tool sets. And better mindset. You may have the mindset, but talk to me about how you are implementing that mindset. What is your tool set? So here's what I know. You must become the voice people trust. Where are people finding your voice? Tell me, where are people finding your voice?
Social media.
They need to. And what is your voice telling them on social media? What is your voice telling them on YouTube? What is your voice telling them on Instagram? What is your voice telling them on TikTok? What is your voice telling them on Facebook? What is your voice telling your consumer day in and day out? Last night, I got a message from a local broker because now in my world, I am no longer competition. I am completion. I am not your competitor, right? I am your ally. I don't care what company, logo, brand, color, affiliation you're part of. There's no competition. You know why? Because there's only one Lucy. Say there's only one me. So that's the other hallucination. Oh, don't teach nobody your stuff because they're your competition. You don't have competition. The only person you compete with on a daily basis is the one you're brushing their teeth every morning. That's the only person. And I don't know about you, but I get up in the morning and I look at myself, I say, I am winning you today. And I say I'm winning you today because if I go but what my mind tells me, what's the number one excuse that we all use when we are in business or in real estate? I don't have enough time. That is a hallucination. That is the story that you have decided to give your inactions. Listen, guys, there's one of two things that are going to happen here today. Either you wake up or you wake up. You have decided to give your dreams, your plans, your ambitions, your future an excuse called I don't have time. That is a hallucination. We have the same amount of time everybody else has, including Elon Musk, the most gazillionaire man on the planet, and the most homeless, broke person under a bridge. What is the difference between them and us? Priorities. Write that down. Your problem is not time. Your problem is priorities. Oh, Lucy, but I got a big dream. Show me your priorities. Show me your agenda. Show me your action plan. And I'll tell you if you really got a dream or if you have a wish. Wishes do not come true. How many of us have made wishes for years, blowing out our cake, candles on our birthday, and them baby wishes have not come through. You're either a baby seal or you become a Navy SEAL. Which one do you want to be?
Navy SEAL.
I don't know about you, but Navy SEALs don't talk, walk, act, or look like baby seals. What are we looking like? What are we talking like? What are we acting like? So our problem, guys, is not time. Our problem is what? Say it loud. Priorities. You must become the voice that people trust. Where are people hearing your message? Oh, Lucy, but I don't have time to do reels. I don't know how you do 20 stories a day. I don't know either, but it's a priority. Because I've decided not to be a secret weapon anymore. Let me tell you a little story. From 2012 to 2016, I taught day in, day out to my agents behind four walls, and I was the biggest kept secret. I was the biggest kept secret. I wouldn't let nobody know. I would never, listen to me. For those that are in the room that are shy. For those of you that are in the room that I'm afraid of the camera. I don't like my voice. I don't like how I look. Listen, I've got a secret for you. It's you. That's you. And you are perfect just the way you are for the perfect people that are supposed to be part of what you do. That's it. But mistake number one is not enough people know you. That is your problem. That has been my problem. So between 2012 and 2016, I realized I have been the best kept secret. I would have never dared to let anybody turn on a camera. As a matter of fact, for 2 years, I kept saying I was going to put my coaching, my trainings, and my mentorships from within my four walls on Zoom. And guess what I did not do? Guess what I did not do? Tell me. I never put it on Zoom because I was too chicken, because it wasn't a priority. Fast forward 2020. What happened in 2020? Everybody say the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about it and I had years. The moment the pandemic hit, and I was supposed to launch my very first real estate licensing class in April of 2020, guess what I did? I turned on Zoom. You could go on my Facebook. I would turn that baby on and I would say, I'm just practicing. I look like a lunatic. I sounded like a lunatic. I probably looked crazy. I didn't care because now it was do or die. It was do or die. See, for 4 years, and this is our problem. You're sitting there on the sideline waiting to be successful. Ain't nobody gonna come and get you. Ain't nobody gonna show up at your house. Ain't no people gonna come and beg you to buy or sell with them. You gotta get up from the sideline. And I don't care if you sell houses, title, insurance, mortgage. We all sell something. Listen, I sell myself to my husband every day. When I want him to do something that he doesn't want to do, I got to put on my best persuasion. I got to put up my salesmanship, my skill set. I got to shift his mindset, right? I got to go into my arsenal and come up with some, weapons of mass destruction so that I could blow up that no, because you all know spouses like to say what? No. So when 2020 kicked in, I turned on that camera. That led me to understand, oh my God, nobody knew what I did. Your problem and my problem is people don't know what you do. People don't know what I do. We think because we say, oh, I'm entitled. That's not what you do. You don't do title. You provide title. You think because you say I do mortgages. You don't do mortgages. What do you do? What do you do? You need to find out what is it that you do. Just like I told you, I'm not a broker, though I have a broker's title. I'm not a real estate Florida licensed instructor, though I have a Florida licensed real estate instructor. I'm not a certified international speaker, though I am an international certified speaker. I just showed you what I do. I empower people to make 5 figures every day, week, month, or year. And how do I do it? I unlock their skills. I do what I do with you here. So where are people seeing what you do? Think about it. That is the biggest, most deadly business mistake that we commit day in and day out. Who's with me? Because people like to do business with people that they what? Say trust. They trust. Right now, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on a group. I would have been on Instagram if I would have connected it, but I got to teach my BDD to connect it. Because I no longer want to be a secret weapon. You guys want to be a secret weapon? Then you got to get up from the sideline. You got to get into the trenches. Think about it. What would happen if more people knew you? Would you have to sell them on, hey, listen, come and see me so I can give you, free this, free that, free other, let me, think about this. Think about this for one moment. You're in real estate, mortgages, title, insurance, whatever you do. You're in the most, you are part of the richest business on the planet. Real estate has made the most amount of millionaires on the planet. Did you know that? Say, now I do.
Now I do.
You are in the richest business on the planet. You've got the power to change people's lives because once somebody buys or sells a home, their life changes. And when you get paid, guess what happens to you? Your life changes a little bit too. If more people know that you were the go-to agent, and it doesn't matter what you sell, forget about the product, think about the service. Would you be making more money, yes or no? Let's think about Mercedes-Benz. Let's think about Mercedes-Benz for a moment. Follow me here for a moment. When someone decides to buy a Mercedes-Benz, do they know where to go to buy one in our area? Come on, help me out, guys. Do you see the Mercedes-Benz people begging, pleading, for business? Why? Because Mercedes-Benz has made a what for themselves? Say a name. They have distinguished themselves in the marketplace. They become a well-trusted brand. So guess what you need to do? You need to establish the same thing Mercedes-Benz has. So when people get ready to buy, sell, get a mortgage, get insurance, get title, get whatever, they know where to find you. Where do people find you? I want you guys to do something right now while I'm doing this. Take out your phone and Google your name. Right now, take out your phone and Google your name. You need to see who you are in the marketplace because I need you to wake up, show up, rise up so you can level up. I want you to write your name. I hope it's one time I was teaching this in class and one of my agents put their name in Google and it was like what do they call that when people get put in jail? It was their mugshot. But it wasn't theirs. It was somebody, and that's the only thing that came up with their name. It was somebody else with the same name who had a mugshot. Put your name in there. What comes up? Don't tell me. Don't tell me what comes up. But you need to know who you are in the marketplace. Are you the Mercedes-Benz of your market? Because I don't care who you work for. ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. I don't care the name of your company. You are the brand. Say, I am the brand. So I give you that illustration because if you are not the Mercedes-Benz, okay, of your market, you've got some shifting to do. Would you agree? I want people to know who I am, what I do, and when they need me, they come find me. I'm not in the business of walking the streets anymore like I used to, right? Door knocking and visiting expireds and visiting for sale by owners. If you're new, hey, that's where everybody starts, but that's not me anymore. You with me? Okay, that's enough. Put your phone down. You got homework to do. I can tell. What? That's all I'm saying? I can't even find me. I don't know. No, that's your problem. That's your business. That ain't my business. But if you Google Lucy Quinones, as a matter of fact, let me tell you something, because this is my life day in and day out. I preach it, I teach it, I implement it, I practice it, I perfect it. I want to master what I do. Do you want to master what you do? Then you got to get in the game. You're not practicing enough if you're not mastering it yet, right? So last week we go to a meeting that we got invited to. I said, I want to be at that meeting because I want to connect with that builder. And the day before, as I was going to another property, because I had to step into a situation with a deal with an investor. I called this person and they said, I'm having something tomorrow, come by, da, 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 da. It goes, by the way, I tried reaching, listen to this. I tried reaching you, on social media, and I've been trying to reach you and I can't reach you. And I was looking for you and I can't find you. And I said, what? That is a problem. I don't know if you're okay not being found, but I'm not okay not being found. So I said, hold on, seriously, where did you go? So he told me where he went. I said, and how did you try to find me? Because I didn't have my phone number on social media. Oh my God, Lucy, but what if they stalk you? They're stalking us anyway. They're stalking us anyway. If they got my phone number, I can decide to answer, block them, do whatever I do, but I want to be found. So I said, tell me where you went. He told me where he went. Tell me what you did. I told him, you know what the problem was? He doesn't have his messenger activated. So if he doesn't have his messenger activated, he can't reach me. Because I don't want to be talking to somebody out in Angola that is a fake hacker. So I took this screenshot and I sent it to him. This is why you can't reach me, because your instant messenger is not activated. You have to know that you are reachable, that you're able to be found. So you must become the voice. Are you guys with me? Do you see how this is a huge problem when you're losing deals? People cannot find you. People don't know who you are. You don't know enough people. Let me put it to you this way. Our problem is not there's not enough business. That is not true. Our problem is the customers that are out there ready, willing, and able to buy. Listen to me one moment. The customers that are out there ready, willing, and able to buy don't know where to find you. That's the real problem. Mistake number 2, you're not easy to find. How easy are you to find? The number one epidemic in our industry across the board is people don't answer their phone. That should be illegal. Like if I run FREC, I would say, you know what? You don't answer your phone, your license is revoked. Aren't you guys happy I don't run FREC? Agents don't answer their phones. What are you in business to do?
Answer that.
Irony? Answer the phone. Oh, but if I'm in a meeting, your phone has a little thing that says auto reply. You click it and you send it and the person knows I'm in a meeting. There's no excuses. Say no excuses.
Oh, excuse me.
You must be easy to find so your customers get to know you before they meet you. Has anybody looked me up on social media before you met me? Yes. Anybody else? You should. I've literally, okay, you looked me up on social media. I've actually had people come to meet with me to join my real estate organization, and they said, I know a lot about you. What did they say? I know a lot about you. What did they say? Repeat. I know a lot about you. Say it again. I know a lot about you. Say it like you mean it. I know a lot about you because I looked you up. That's what you want people to say about you. That's why I had to repeat it 5 times. And you're struggling because your brain is like, people need to know about me? Yeah. You are a public servant. You are a public servant. I hope you don't have a private Instagram. Please, I will have a condition. You are a public servant. People need to, oh, Lucy, but it's private. Then get out of real estate. Get out of business because business ain't private. Unless you're a private investigator. Is anybody here a private investigator? Right? So people must know you before they meet you. That is the number 2 biggest mistake. They don't know you. They don't know where to find you. Then they go look up your Instagram and they find some, video from last year. Oh my Lord. Like, I'm like, what? or all they see is houses or whatever it is you sell, but they're not getting to know you. They are not getting to know you. People have to get to know you before they meet you. Look, when I got into real estate, I got one more mistake and then we're gonna, help me say, I'm trying with time. I remember when I first got into real estate in 1999, the office that I went to work at had a lot of old time realtors. I mean, I'm talking about 1980, 81. And I remember there used to be this little, like business card holder at the front desk. And everybody had their business card there, right? Because back in the day, where did buyers and sellers go to find their realtors? Help me out.
State office.
Real estate office. There was no Facebook in the year 2000. There was no social media in the year 2000 or in the 80s, right? So people would go to, listen to this, people would go to the office to find their realtor. And I remember I would look at some business cards, hear me out, and I would say, I've never met that agent. And then I would read the name, I'm like, is that business card right? Because that's Betty Sue's name, but this lady had her picture from when she did her first communion 50 years earlier. And I remember one day I went to my broker and I said, why don't they update their picture? It was a phenomenon. The realtors back then wanted to surprise their customers. And they really did. Because when you looked at that picture, that looked like Jacqueline Onassis, but 50 years later, Jackie changed. And now the agent is coming out and you're like, nowadays you're on social media. You have to be on social media. And it's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. I remember in the year 1999, those same agents were fighting emails. They didn't want to do emails. I'm not going to do emails. That's not going to last. We had AOL.com. They were fighting AOL.com. That's not going to last. I don't have time to be learning the internet. I don't have time to be dialing up. That's not for me. That's not going to work. Did it stay? Yeah. So I hope you're on top of AI and you're already using AI because it's been up and running since January. Okay? Because it's going to stay. Mistake number 3 is you're a secret weapon. You are a secret weapon. You are the best kept secret like I used to be. And let me tell you, there's a lot of you people out there. There's a lot of you people out there. I don't care if you're a mortgage, title, builder, insurance, real estate. There's a lot of you people out there. What makes you the one? What makes you the one? What is your defining factor? Write that down. You need to find your defining factor. What is your defining factor? And who knows about it? And how clear do they know it that they could repeat it? Yesterday, I had someone at a meeting that we were at for an event that I'm planning, by the way, who's going to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Mastermind Network September 20th. Everybody raise your hand if you don't know about it. We'll know about it today. And you know what? I had someone enlighten me. And I don't know about you, but I take action quickly. Like, I'm an action player. I am an action player. That's why I said to you when we started, our problem is not, that we can't make it in real estate. Our problem is that we are not implementing, practicing. We're not coming up to bat over and over again. So this person said to me, you don't have the domain, Coach Lucy Q? I'm like, oh my goodness, that's right. I don't have the domain, Coach Lucy Q. Guess what I have down? The domain, Coach Lucy Q. You got to take action. And there's a lot of realtors out there that are just talkers. Say talkers. Say that's not me.
That's not me.
Oh, I'm going to pivot in real estate. I'm a crush in real estate. I am the honky-tonk of real estate. But when you go look at their daily actions, they're on the sideline. They're getting ready to get ready to get ready to be ready. So when they're ready to get ready so they can get ready and get ready and be ready. So are you the best kept secret? Are you the best kept secret? I'm going to make you guys an offer you cannot refuse. Who wants an offer you can't refuse? But raise your hand, not like an alligator, like you're in this. I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse because there is absolutely no way on the planet, okay, humanly possible that you could learn the scripts, the dialogues, the objection handlers for navigating the new real estate landscape that we're living. There's no way you could learn that in one bootcamp. There's no way. There is absolutely no way. So I put together a challenge. Who likes a challenge? Raise your hand. Everybody should raise your hand. I like a challenge. Because when you get challenged, you get challenged. And I don't know about you, but I want a lot of zeros after my financial statements. I want a lot of zeros to the right. Right? And the only way that's going to happen is if we take action. So I created an ebook. And I'm just going to read to you real quick what my ebook that is called, because this is my offer you cannot refuse. I'm telling you this, it doesn't get better than this. Navigating the new real estate landscape. A realtor's guide to mastering the BBA. What is the BBA? Buyer broker agreement. See, BBA, everybody say BBA.
BBA.
That's what it's called. And on here, I have given you the understanding concepts of what the BBA is all about. Not only how to navigate it, but how to present your unique value proposition when you are talking about your compensation, how to handle the biggest fears that buyers are facing right now when being approached with the BBA. Say the BBA. Buyers are scared. I have in here the solution to those fears when presenting the BBA. I have the objection handlers for presenting the BBA. I've got what to say and how to say it and when to say it. I've got memory joggers for you. Say memory joggers. You know what a memory jogger is? Something that's going to help you remember all this new stuff. I've got in here, oh my God, this is so juicy. I mean, I can't even believe it. I've got in here, okay, how to negotiate with the seller, how to incorporate it into the contract, how to present it to the seller's agent, how to incorporate it into the financing, how to talk about it, what to say, how to position yourself to become the go-to agent. And last but not least, in here, I also have 5 key action items that if you implement going forward, you're going to be a rock star. Who wants to be a rock star? So this is really easy. We are going to give you an opportunity to be part of my upcoming challenge. My upcoming challenge is going to be 5 days. For 5 days, 2 hours a day, I'm going to dissect this with you. For 5 days, 2 hours a day, we're going to dissect this. It's going to be on Zoom. I'm going to give you the opportunity to join me today for $47. Only $47. You can't have a nice meal for $47. 1 week challenge, 2 hours a day for only $47. This is valued at over $1,500 because let me tell you why I know that. Once you learn this, you're going to go close a deal. Your average commission is $6,000. Who would pay $47 to make $6,000? Raise your hand real high so I know who the business-minded people in the room are. And then once you learn it, because we're going to dissect it for 5 days, you put it on wash and repeat. Wash and repeat. Wash and repeat. Wash and repeat. What happens after that? Say, I'm going to master it. So that is my challenge. It's only for today, $47, 5 days, 2 hours. We're gonna dissect it. If you are interested, you wanna meet in the back with my business development director who said, put me down, she'll tell you what to do. It's real simple. But guys, it is an offer you cannot refuse if you're serious about scaling. 5 days, 2 hours a day on Zoom, we're dissecting my outline, the ebook that I created, point by point, so that you can internalize it, so that you can practice it, so that you know what to do and how to do it. Okay? So that is my offer that I wanted to share with you. I will also give some other things on there that I'll go over real quick here just so you see. I'm going to teach you how to meet people face to face like a professional. I'm going to teach you the art of effective appointment setting. Guys, our business is an art. Doing deals is a science. Agents don't know the difference. We don't know the difference. So the art of effective appointment setting, buyer consultations, which are the new listing presentations. That's why there's more buyer agents than listing agents. Because most agents don't want to develop the skills of being a lean, mean listing machine. So they just take the buyers, right? Which used to be easier, but they're no longer easier. I'm going to share with you how to avoid commission breath and exhale confidence. I'm going to show you money-making activities, and we're going to go over some other items. We're going to put it all together. I'll talk to you about more things, and you guys can go follow me, check me out, like me, ask me questions. This morning I woke up, and one of you, I'm not going to say who, said, Lucy, I'm going to be there this morning. And I was like, you see, it's out there. So those are the messages you should be getting every day, day in and day out. Okay? Thank you guys for joining me for this session. We're going to be bringing up our next guest up next, Sam Saad, who is a master real estate attorney here in Southwest Florida, who is going to tell you the how to. How do you? We already know what's happening. We already know what we don't know. We already know we don't know what we don't know that we still don't know. That is making us stressed out. We need to know how. How do we take out this BBA and fill it out? How do we, plug and play the things in there? How do we write the contract? How do we write ourselves in the contract? And how do we position ourselves with our contracts when it comes to the buyer-broker agreement? Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call Talia up, and she will get us set up.
But if you guys want to take a quick break, there's coffee, there's
also
water, and then a little later we're gonna have like a little lunch. So thank you. No problem.
So we'll take a 5-minute break while we get this set up, and we'll take off from there.
Hey, how are you? I want to take advantage and take a quick picture for the
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's an issue.
Well, my right.
So it's just a present picture.
Okay.
Can we get a picture with Sandy?
Right, right.
Can we take a picture?
Sure.
We'll see her soon. One more this. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness.
We've been a lot.
Yeah.
I just see a lot of listings come up. It's like it's probably staying today. Go down a couple.
Yes.
Like you can afford so much money in this size house. And the industry went up. You can afford that house, but you know what? It's like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what the agent is most gets. I've never heard of the buyer talk, me getting paid. No, it's not even on the page.
So weird.
You don't do that as an attorney. Now they have to do it. And I know that people will make. Yeah. Have you been here? This is what I do now. I still have my real estate permit. I don't have a real estate application, but I also have an
I mean, we just do the purpose stuff. And the
Oh, you guys do that? Yes, okay. Okay. So you guys do the purpose stuff?
Like, we'll do the, we work with purpose group. So, a lot of power between,
Alright, well, let's get started.
ready?
Daddy, we're ready? Dalia? You ready? We don't have to do anything there now, right? Okay. So we don't need the mic or anything?
We should, yeah, you should.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. All right, so let me introduce you. You want to do this official? Okay, guys, let's get this party started. The next session is going to be led by a local real estate attorney who has an incredible trajectory in Southwest Florida, highly knowledgeable in what he does and how he does it. He's going to tell you more about himself. He knows himself better than I know him. But one of the things that I can tell you about Sam Saad is highly respected, very collaborative, very, open to serving the community. He serves on different, frontiers of our marketplace. And so it's an honor to have him here today. And I'm so excited that he's coming to showcase this for you guys. So let's give a round of applause for Sam Saad.
Thank you. All righty, so today, we're going to talk about buyer broker best practices. So I'm an attorney, and my name is Sam Saad. So we start off with a disclaimer, then I'm going to give you some advice, but it's not necessarily legal advice. You can't sue me if I'm wrong. A little bit about me. I've been doing this for 20 years. I am a past chair of the Naples Area Board of Realtors Legal Resources Committee. I'm currently the scribe of that committee, so I write the NABOR contracts. And then I'm also on the joint FAR Bar committee and help with FAR Bar contracts. Just joined that committee this year. And we have a full service law firm. We also have a title company. And today we're going to talk about the NAR settlement. We're going to talk about some practice changes, review the agreements, the buyer broker agreements, the showing agreements, and we'll discuss how to put compensation in the transaction, typically in the sales contract. And I've got a few tips and tricks I'll share with you at the end. Just really briefly, the settlement, of course, the judgment was Halloween, October 31st, 23. They entered into the settlement on March 15th. The practice changes effective date, of course, is August 17th, but our local MLSs pulled all the information, compensation information out on August 1st. Everybody's noticed that, right? There's no more MLS.
Mhm.
And then now the real deadline, though, is November 26th, so the final hearing is scheduled. And we've not heard from the Department of Justice yet, so we don't really know if our settlement agreement is final. Never mind that, we're going to plow ahead. So paragraph 58 of the settlement agreement is really the practice changes. It's about 100 and some page long agreement, and include all the supplements. But what we really care about is paragraph 58. I encourage you to read paragraph 58, which is available on the NAR's website. But it outlines all the practice changes effective August 17th. Because, as we said, the compensation fields were removed August 1st, and the concessions. So they're going to allow you to say that the concessions, not compensation, but concessions are offered. You just can't say how much or a percent or a rate or amount. You can simply say concessions are offered, concessions are not offered, or concessions are negotiable. Those are pretty much the three phrases they're going to allow in the MLS. Then there are a lot of other sections, the settlement agreement, and the brokerages, of course, have a bunch of paperwork they've got to fill out. So what do we talk about in terms of the changes to the MLS? Well, no compensation allowed in the MLS anywhere, anything related to the MLS. You cannot have blanket, unconditional, and unilateral offers of compensation anymore, which means the compensation is now totally negotiable and can be conditional. Of course, we'll talk about it more. Everything has to be in writing, so when you hopefully get to the closing table, everything lines up and everything's fine. But again, there's the 2-click rule. So you can put a link to your website, for example, or to a landing page for your property in the MLS, but on that website or landing page, you cannot have compensation listed. Just one more click. So click from MLS to your page, from your page to compensation. And that's the 2-click rule that they want to see implemented for if you're going to make offers of compensation anywhere. Does everybody understand the 2-click rule? Any questions
So
about
from
that?
the MLS,
From the MLS,
you
Go
link
to
them
your-
to your landing page.
to your landing page, or
And
your
then-
home page, or your landing page for the property, or some other website. And then on that website, you can have a link that says compensation, or a link that says, broker comp, or co-broke offer, or whatever you want to put on there. And then that link will take you to where you would show the compensation. But you can put the compensation on all your advertising. But I've seen people like it's already up on some signs, commission offer, something like that on people's webs, on people's yard signs. So it just can't be in the MLS.
I'm curious, what does the 2 clicks do? So what's the logic?
They don't want any, the MLS, whoever was sued for violations of antitrust, which means that realtors were colluding on pricing. So brokerage A and brokerage B happen off of the same compensation and commissions, and brokerage C, followed suit. So everybody's doing the same thing, and people were telling buyers their services were free, and that led to an antitrust action. So the 2-click rule is supposed to separate your compensation from the MLS.
So it's just getting you farther from the MLS page.
Protecting the
Okay.
MLS.
2 clicks.
So you must have a written buyer broker agreement. That written agreement must specify and conspicuously disclose the amount of compensation or how it will be determined. The amount has to be objectively ascertainable, which means you can't have a formula that says I get paid whatever the seller is offering, for example. And you cannot receive any money from any source in the transaction that is not written into your buyer broker agreement. So once you sign that buyer broker agreement for X percentage, that's what you're getting paid, regardless of what the seller offers, regardless of what else is out there, if it's a new construction bonus, unless you get the buyer broker agreement amended. All right, so Florida Realtors has 3 levels, we're going to call them, three types of relationships that you can enter into with buyers. There's the exclusive agreement, the showing agreement, and the pre-showing agreement. But so we're going to talk through these agreements. I'm going to show you how to fill them in, what they mean, and kind of like how to do it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can say you're going to do for the buyer. So Lucy's mentioning, you got to sell your services. You have to create a value proposition. And what you're really selling is this. You want to get their signature on this buyer broker exclusive agreement because you tie them up and they have to close with you during the term of the agreement and the protection period unless they go to another broker. So the goal is to get them to sign the buyer broker exclusive. But if they don't want to get that detailed with you, then there are other opportunities. We'll go through those 2 other levels of relationships. All right. So Florida Realtors has 4 versions of the buyer broker agreement, depending on your transaction, your brokerage relationship. So I'm going to assume, because it's the default, that you all are going to be transaction brokers. You may have a no brokerage relationship. You may have a single agent relationship. And if you are a single agent, you may transition to transaction broker. So those are the 4. But the first 11 sections are the same on all 4 versions. So we're again going to go through the transaction broker form, but it's the same on all of them. So for those of you that want to be a single agent, which by the way, if I can say for a second, single agent's probably going to be the more valuable proposition for you if your brokerage will allow it, because then you can say, you know, I work for you. I am a fiduciary to you, as opposed to I'm just working to get you to sign this contract and sell this property. So, I'm as a lawyer, I'm a single agent. I'm a fiduciary. So it's something that you don't have to be afraid of. And I'm starting to see it more and more. Matter of fact, I just did a custom buyer broker agreement for a brokerage, and then like a 5 email argument with them about why I think it's a bad idea to do single agency, but they wanted it. So it's out there. All right, so start off, you're going to have your parties. You're going to put your consumer name, by the way. It's now called a consumer, no longer a buyer. So they're throughout the documents there. And you, by the way, are buyer's brokers. Buyer's brokers, no longer cooperating or selling broker. They're making it buyer broker consistent across all the forms. So you put your consumer's name there. It could be an LLC or it could be the trustee of a trust. Just make sure that you put the full legal name as it matches the driver's license or the name of the LLC, because if you do have to sue them for the commission later, we want to make sure that you contracted with the right parties. So I think that's also going to be a bigger deal. Then you put your full brokerage name here. Depending on who your broker is, if there's a franchise, make sure you get the name right. It's not just XYZ Realty with the full legal name. Again, because we have to give proper legal notice, and I have to make sure it's all correct in front of the judge. And then this is the exclusive right to work with and assist consumer in locating and negotiating property. The exclusive right. So this is, they agree to work with you and only you. Next up, you're going to put the term in. How long are you all going to work together? It could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year, whatever it is. You work with them to be exclusive, where they agree that you are going to show them property. If they buy property, they're going to go through you. How long do you want to work with them? You must enter the dates because there's no defaults. You can't leave this blank. But you got your start date and then your end date. And notice there's an automatic extension. So think about it. If you're going with them and they say, you know what, I'll sign up exclusively with you for this weekend. I'm going to be in town for the weekend. I'll do this for the weekend. So you put the weekend in there, and then they find the property, and they sign a contract, and they go buy it. Well, there's an automatic extension until closing, so you don't have to get an extension for the 30 or 40 days it's going to take you to close. It's a very, very good feature. Up next, this is super important because this agreement is only effective as the properties, the kind of properties that you put in here. So you're going to locate the type of property, be it a single family home, a condominium, a townhome, whether they want an HOA or no HOA, that type of thing. So type of property, and you can be as detailed or as specific as you want, and then the location of the property, and then you can put a neighborhood, city, county, any geographic area. I've already seen agents put it in the state of Florida. I'm not sure that's a great idea. It's legal, certainly a geographic area that's readily definable and ascertainable. But if you don't know Jacksonville, and they go up to Jacksonville and buy property with another agent, are you going to be able to sue them and say, they signed this exclusive agreement with me, and then the judge is going to say, yeah, but you have no expertise or skill in Jacksonville. Maybe it's outside the code of ethics. Maybe it's outside the statutory duties. So I wouldn't go crazy, but I would be more specific. If you want to say Southwest Florida, list the counties, Lee, Collier, Charlotte, Henry, whatever it is, but an ascertainable geographic area. So I would not actually write Southwest Florida, because I don't know where that is exactly. But I put the counties or the cities. Okay, so this is your obligations. You're defining what you will do for the consumer. This is what you're selling. This is the services that you are selling to the consumer. You're going to use professional knowledge and skills. You know the neighborhoods, you know the city, you know the codes, you know how to get to building permit issues. Whatever it is that you know, your knowledge and skill, you're going to discuss property requirements and assist them in locating and viewing the properties. You're going to assist them in negotiating and closing the transaction, and you're going to cooperate with other agents. This allows you to work with multiple buyers on the same property. Why is that important? Because the brokerage is the one that the customer is contracting with. So you may have a relationship with this buyer, and you're going to go show them 123 Happy Street, but there may be another realtor in the brokerage with another buyer broker agreement signed with a different customer. They may also be interested in that property. That's allowed. You agree to follow fair housing, and you are released for referring vendors. So if you refer me the title work and I do a bad job, they can't sue you. All right, so this being an exclusive relationship, the customer, the consumer, the buyer is going to have obligations to you. They have to conduct all negotiations through you and tell every other realtor that's calling them every day, hey, I have an exclusive relationship with you, and I'm working with you to get the deal done. They have to provide accurate information, be available. If they wreck the place on the showing, they've got to they indemnify you, and they agree to consult other professionals for their needs, so that you can be the source of the source, but not the source of the information. Because you don't want to give legal advice, you're not contractors. You hear contractors? Now this is a really great feature of the Florida Realtors contract. It's a retainer. You get, and you can, if you like, you don't have to put a dollar amount in here, but I'm recommending that realtors start taking retainers. I take a retainer. Retainer fee for broker services to the consumer is earned and payable upon execution of this agreement. And it's in addition to any other compensation that you're receiving. So this is money that you get just for taking them in your car for the weekend. You're going to spend money on gas, you're going to buy them lunch, you're going to put up with their kids, have the dog ruin the carpet, whatever is going to happen, you should be paid for your work. And that's what the Florida Realtors Agreement allows to happen in the form of a retainer. The only thing you cannot do under Florida statute is you cannot be paid to give somebody a listing of rentals. So if somebody calls you up and says, hey, you got a list of the local rentals in the area, you can't say, yeah, that's $50. So that used to happen a lot. That's how they're legal under Florida statute. So in addition to that retainer, of course, you want to be compensated for your work. So the compensation is earned when during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, the consumer contracts to acquire the real property. So when they sign the contract, you earn your money. You don't get paid until closing, but it is earned upon signing the contract. And the compensation received by the broker, if any, from an owner's broker for services rendered to the consumer will reduce the amount owed by the consumer. So you put your X percentage in paragraph A, and then if the seller is offering a co-broke of some sort, and you negotiate that out, of course, it will be in writing and or in the contract, we'll talk about that. Then it would reduce what the buyer owed you. So if you put X here and the compensation from the seller is less than X, you still are owed X, you owe the difference from the buyer. Now filling this out, just as a show of hands, how many people's brokerages here charge a transaction fee or brokerage fee or processing fee? All of them. Okay. So if you don't require a transaction fee, then the first two blanks, you've got your dollar amount or your percentage amount of the purchase price. If you do have a transaction fee, then you would use blanks number 3 or 4, and you put your transaction fee right here. Everybody see that? If you have leased property, and you fill in the lease as the number of months rent or the percentage of the gross lease value. If you get an option trading, then you can put a dollar amount or percent of the option amount. And then you can add other fees as you or other obligations here if you like. All right, so a few bullet points just talking about compensation. Again, it's due at the time of contracting for a property. If the consumer defaults on their purchase, you get paid. The seller's, that's the default, not a terminated as is under the as is provision. That's the as is provision is over, the finance contingency is over, and the buyer walks. It says, I don't want this property, or otherwise defaults. You still are entitled to a commission. The seller code broke reduces the amount of compensation. You must negotiate how you are paid as you said, as a percentage, a fixed fee, or a combination. You're paid at closing. You have multiple options, and you may enter other terms into the relationship.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you dissect a little bit further the first part about getting paid even if they don't close?
So if you see here, broker compensation is earned when during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, consumer or any person acting for consumer contracts to acquire the real property specified in this agreement or defaults on any contract to acquire property. So what it's saying is when you contract to acquire the property, you've done your job and earned your fee. If they don't close because they default on the sales contract, then you would have to send a demand letter, possibly sue them, go after them, get a lien, all that sort of thing. But you'd be entitled to get your commission.
So this actually is almost exactly like a listing.
It's a lot like a listing.
Yeah, because
Yes,
normally we see this
right.
in listing contracts. If you sign a listing agreement, you bring a buyer, if the seller decides not to sell, you can sue them technically. In this case, it wouldn't be the agent suing,
The
it
broker.
would be the broker. But I think that's really important to
Very
understand.
good. Yeah. Yes.
So if the buyer, let's say I'm the buyer agent.
Yeah.
So the buyer made an agreement, contract, and he don't have enough funds, so he's taking a loan from the bank.
Right.
If he failed to get the loan,
If he doesn't, if he properly terminates during the finance contingency period, you would not get paid because he didn't default on the contract. But if the contingency period expires for financing and he doesn't terminate, he's got to go to closing, whether it's money or not. Then you'd be in default. You'd be entitled to your commission. Understand?
so
Go ahead.
so the other thing is, other quick question is, you mentioned about the broker buyer exclusive agreement. There is a transaction, no brokerage, single broker agreement, and then what was the fourth one?
Transition from single agent to transaction broker. So if you start off as a single agent, but then the buyer, for example, becomes interested in your listing in your brokerage, you can't be a single agent and sell a listing in your brokerage if you have the buyer. You need to be a transition to transaction broker. Give the transaction broker notice, and then you can sell him the listing that's in your brokerage. Does that make sense?
So the other one is, what are the required services by Florida realtors? What are the required services by an agent to a buyer?
There's an NAR publication that's got 105 things you do for the buyer.
Okay.
So you would want to review, and I think I have a graphic of what that looks like at the end of my presentation. But there's a lot that you do for the when I say early, like spectacle fest. When I say that you will bring professional knowledge and skills, the skills, there's a lot that you should be able to do for the buyer to provide value. You know, it's know the neighborhood, know the the market, know how financing works, at least generally, and know a good finance person.
Negotiation.
Understand how to negotiate the purchase price by knowing the market and knowing what's going on, and, investigate the seller. Google's your friend. So there's a lot of skills that you need to have as a buyer's agent. They're very similar to the listing agent skills. It's knowing your market, knowing how to price the property, knowing the value of the property. I mean, it's almost like you have to be an appraiser, a marketer, a business person, you got a title, you got all this stuff. You have to know a lot of things to be a good agent. And if that doesn't change, it might expand more on this with the buyer side.
I think that's part of the challenge,
Is
Sam, is that agents think that they were just opening houses and filling in blanks on the contract. And I think that that's where the real challenge is understanding that you've always been this professional, you just didn't know who you really were. And we're supposed to know so much more than, like even, for example, doing a CMA on a property before
Right.
you're gonna write an offer. Most agents don't do a CMA.
No, things like the CMA process is gonna be very important, because you want to know the value. But if someone's offering $3 million for this house, $1 million, whatever it is, you have to tell the buyer, this is the value of this house, it's next door is 3.1 million, and it's got a better pool. This one's 2.8 million, it's got a, 1 bedroom less. So you gotta know your area.
Well,
And I talk about it at the end.
yeah, that's the challenge right now, that each of us now have to be the very best, not just mediocre. We need to be the very best because the consumer is now gonna pay for their services. So if they're gonna pay for their services,
Yeah.
they're gonna want the best
Well,
person.
let me be correct, they've always paid for the
Yeah.
services, now they're gonna know they paid for the services, because you're gonna sign an agreement with them before they even come.
Right.
So let's keep going through the agreement, and I've got some stuff to talk about at the end as well, and you can all, feel free to ask any questions. So the next step is the protection period. So the consumer will compensate the broker if within 30 days after the termination of this agreement, the consumer buys a property that you show them. So you show a property to a buyer, and they say, I don't really want it, I don't really like it, and then the agreement ends. And then within so many days, 30 is the default, after you terminate, your agreement terminates, they go back door you and buy the property, directly from the listing agent, you're still entitled to your compensation. So you also can conditionally terminate this agreement and get a fee if the consumer requests. You, broker, may conditionally terminate the agreement. If there is a conditional termination, you have to have a written termination agreement and pay a cancellation fee of X. And if they, you still get compensated if they go back and look at your property, buy property you showed them during the term of the agreement or the protection.
Even after having the cancellation.
After the conditional termination, yeah. Basically, these provisions are designed to protect you, the protection period and the conditional termination, so you can't get back door.
That would be the procuring cost.
You don't want them going back to the listing agent and saying, listen, I heard you were offering X to the buyer. I'm the buyer, give me the X, I won't use this other agent, I'll get less than X. So it's a protection, it's gonna happen, there are unscrupulous people out there. So this is protection for you. And then dispute resolution, you got mediation followed by arbitration if you initial. If the broker were to sell the business, then the brokerage relationship goes with the brokerage. And then, of course, you have your brokerage relationships. You have to pick the correct form. Again, we assume transaction broker is the default. And you've got your acknowledgement that allow for e-signing. You're not allowed to make changes except in writing. So as a question, whether text messages or writing, please don't make changes by text. Get a signed paper. Makes it so much easier if you have to go to court. The notice that commissions are not set by law. And then that you cannot receive compensation not stated in this agreement, and allows you to get listings. And then everybody signs notice here. Consumer, again, consumer signature, and then their contact information. please do not skip the contact information for the consumer. Again, when they skip you, I have to send them a demand letter, I need to know where to send it. And then the broker or authorized associate signs you, and everybody gets. All right, so that's the exclusive buyer-broker relationship. That's the we're married, we're together for this term. No matter what you buy, I get paid to go through me. Everybody understand that? Exclusive part? Yes.
Even if the contract is terminated, so the buyer decides after the termination, he decides to go and buy the same property.
Yep.
With like, let's say he's in contract with a different broker.
Right.
And he buys the same property.
If he has a contract with a buyer's broker agreement with a new broker, then you're cut off.
Okay.
So he can go to, if he goes directly to the listing agent, for example, then you should get paid. But if he signs with a new buyer broker after the termination, then you're cut off.
Even if you're the procuring cost?
Well, you wouldn't be the procuring cost unless they sign a contract, deal going on.
How long are we talking about?
During whatever you put for the protection period, which the default is 30 days. Which, I mean, that's a very short protection period. I would be pushing for a longer.
What would you recommend?
I've been very careful not to give recommendations for actual numbers
Yeah.
because I don't want anyone to say that we're colluding.
Right.
But whatever you feel your value is, if you spend a month with these people, you show 50 properties, you're gonna want maybe a longer protection period than a weekend. You just spent the weekend with them and showed them 3. So again, all of this whole exercise is about your value proposition. What can you bring to the table for these buyers? If you're the best agent, longer term, better protection period, show them more properties. All right, so say you're not going to get married, but you want to date. They want to see some property, you want to show them some property, you want to get paid, they don't mind paying you. So we're going to date the customer. It's not an exclusive relationship, but same as before, you put the party's name, the consumer agrees that if between this date and 11/59 on the end date, the consumer is interested in touring, negotiating, purchasing, option, exchanging, leasing, or otherwise acquiring property listed below, we'll show you that. Then the consumer will utilize the professional services of the broker's name. And then if they enter into a contract, there's an automatic extension. So again, very similar to the exclusive buyer broker, consumer, start date, end date of the relationship, probably shorter than the exclusive relationship. Put your brokerage, your full brokerage name there. And then you're going to list the addresses of the property that you're going to show. So you put 123 Happy Street. Take them over to 123 Happy Street. If they buy it, you pay. If they don't, you don't.
Can you put such and such community?
This is more designed for property specific. So as we go through this, I'll show you that. But it's really designed for you to say, I'm going to take you to these 5 properties. We're dating, we're not married. So if you buy one of these 5, then that's it.
So you
And this will convey to closing as
This
well.
goes, yes. This extends, it automatically extends to the closing. Yeah. Yes, sir.
But in that scenario, I guess you don't do a retainer or something like that, or can you? Or it's not.
You could. No, this agreement does not have a specific retainer clause, but you could have that if you wanted to. Anyway, so you list the address to show about what happens if you put down 3 properties and they're the 3rd property, you walk out the door of the 3rd property, they don't like any of the 3 properties, but the holy grail that they've always wanted to buy is across the street.
Right in the address.
Right in the address, initial and date, go look at the property across the street. But whatever you do, don't go look at the property across the street until you have an agreement to be compensated for that property. Remember, this is not an exclusive, whatever they buy. This is, if they buy something stated in section 2, then you are getting paid. I really understand that. It's very, very important. That's what happens. You will experience that. When you show them 5 properties, they don't, and then they find the property they really like, and you have to scramble. So be prepared for that. Have a pen and paper, take this with you. You know, have a file, or unless you can do it quickly on your phone, you know how to manipulate app files or form simplicity.
So say you show them the 5 houses and then they wanna see the 6th house, can you add it into that same
That's
contract?
exactly what I'm saying. Write it in and initial and date.
Before you show.
Before you show. You have to have it before touring home. Everybody understand that? So you're gonna be scrambling on the ship. This is not an exclusive. This is, we want to talk about these specific properties. Okay, so again, like the other agreements, you have your broker duties, they're exactly the same: knowledge and skill, diligent effort, negotiate, close, cooperate with other agents. You can work with consumers on the same property, and you have protection for fair housing and performing other services. The consumer, again, agrees to cooperate in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement, including immediately contacting the broker upon deciding to negotiate for acquisition of one or more of the above listed properties. So if you put, Hacienda the Lakes in there, it's not as clear as one of the above listed properties, so I would go by address. And then they inform other licensees of this agreement, they provide accurate information, they agree to consult with other professionals, again, be the source. One of my tips at the end is have a really good stable of people that you work with. And then they'll agree to make a good effort to perform the contract and close on the transaction. Understand that? Questions? So the compensation is earned at the time for contracting one of the properties stated above. The compensation again is for broker services for the consumer. You put either your dollar or your percent here. For those of you that have a transaction of fees, you use blanks number 3 and 4. And then the 5th blank is where your transaction fee goes. Leases, you do the same thing with your number of months rents. And it's payable at closing, but closing is required to earn the fee. This is different. The other one, you earn the fee at contract. You earn the fee, but it's payable at closing, and closing is required. So it's a different standard. Carefully. And then there are other standards in the contract that are very similar to what we talked about before. Blanks for additional terms. So if you have other things you want to discuss, you have time, you have space. And then the commissions are fully negotiable and you still need to. All right, questions about the showing agreement? All right, moving quickly. So you also have a form to modify the agreements. This is one form. This is what it looks like. Use the PowerPoint magic here. See it? So I'm going to zoom in on a few parts of it. I just want you to have the opportunity to look at the whole thing and see names at the top, what we can change, other, sign, and the receipt. So. Oops. Oh, I see. Have a slide in the front. No, that's fine.
So this is gonna take a lot more preparation now.
Give me 1 second and see the name is thinking. All right. So now this is the modification agreement. So you want to make sure that the consumer name matches your showing agreement or your buyer broker exclusive. So make sure your consumer name matches, same broker name, and then check the box if you're amending the exclusive buyer broker. or the showing agreement. So you have to remember which agreement you're working with. And then this is the date that they signed the original showing agreement or buyer broker. So you put the date in here. Up next, you can amend the termination dates. You can amend the compensation. If you amend the compensation, you need to be very careful. This form is not well written. Compensation to broker will be, you put your X here, you put your transaction fee here. So a lot of times, we're only going to be amending our X. But if you amend X and you don't include your transaction fee, did you just delete your transaction fee?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably. So be very careful when you fill in the amendment form. You don't leave any blanks. If you leave a blank, plan on not getting paid for that. And then some other options you can change include the protection period, the cancellation fee. And you could agree to that conditional termination and get paid on the date. The cancellation fee we talked about earlier, the buyer broker. And then there's the unconditional termination, and then there's the other things you might want to change. Then you've got your signature notice, you've got a receipt. So you can fill in and create a business record that's good evidence that the court will see if you have to fight about this, if you actually delivered this amendment to the consumer on such a date, and how the method of delivery. I'm assuming your brokers, if they're smart, are going to require this to be done. So start doing that. Okay. So that's the buyer brokerage agreement and the showing agreement and modifying them. Let's talk now. Okay. We don't want to date, but let's have coffee. Let's chat, get to know each other a little bit. And this agreement, again, this is what it looks like. It's one page. It's the pre-touring agreement. Let me see what that is.
There's so many stages to this.
Yeah, there's 3 stages, three levels of relationship. So this is, you put your brokerage name, you put the consumer's names, how long this agreement's going to last for. Usually this is going to be a very short period of time. And then you just tell them they don't owe any money at this time. If they wish to work with you, they may sign a different agreement or pay these fees or percentages of the purchase price. So it's very, very simple. And this is just a zoom in so you can see it a little better. If you wish to work, you may be asked to sign a separate agreement detailing the parties' responsibilities. Okay. So before I get to the sales contract, now we've talked about the buyer broker, we've talked about the relationship. What questions do you have about getting into one of these? Yes.
Would we get copies of these things if you have, including the template if you have it?
So these are all in your forms files. These are all for form simplicity. So you have access to all these forms through the MLS. If you probably use app files or zip forms in your brokerages, I would be very careful to make sure you have the latest and greatest forms. I would go to a form simplicity or something. One of the vendors that gets the paperwork directly from Florida Realtors or Naval. So app files, your broker loads your app files for you. Just be careful. I've seen a lot of people say, I don't have that or I can't find that. And I'm like, are you in app files? Like, yes, but go to form simplicity. It's right here. And I'd send you a link to it, but form simplicity doesn't allow links for whatever reason.
So let's imagine that, okay, so now you have to act like an attorney or a doctor. You have to do a pre-consultation or some type of with this customer, this client, whatever. Consumer.
They used to buyer brokers and you work with consumers.
So here's the thing. So let's imagine that they're doing whatever they want to do. So they sign with you, and let's say they sign any one of the 2, right? The property one or the exclusive one.
Yeah.
But then they forget, or I don't know, one of the spouses decides to go sign another one while they have one active with you, right? Because now the wife wants to work with this one or anything. They just went to another open house or whatever. What happens then? They have one with you and now they sign another one with.
They could conceivably have two commissions. If they sign two buyer broker exclusive agreements, one with you, one with me, they had agreed with both of us to work exclusively with one of us. They would be immediately in breach of contract when they sign the second one, and the commission would be.
So that means that we need to know that so that
It's a
we.
question
can
that you would
explain
ask.
that to
You
them.
would say that, have you signed any agreements with anybody else? Oh, no, I just talked to so-and-so, I forgot, nothing. You didn't sign a buyer broker exclusive? A showing agreement, a pre-touring agreement? Sign anything? Oh, I think so, yeah, they sent me something to sign, I don't remember what it was. May I see it? You gotta ask, 'cause, people don't know. There are unscrupulous people out there who tell them something that they may not understand. Definitely.
What happens if you have a scenario that maybe one of the brokers or one of the real estate agents might be a broker or an agent that is not part of an MLS, like they're.
Sure,
in their
Thompson,
own-
Thompson broker in Florida, yeah.
Okay, so then what forms apply? Which one would prevail? Like, how-
So those agents are not subject to any of these rules. Right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Those agents that are not members of the MLS, they're not NAR members, are not subject to any of these rules. They don't need written buyer broker agreements.
So basically what you're saying is somebody's that broker or an agent and he's not in the MLS, not in any board, they don't need to have none of this
None of
signed.
this applies to them. But they are also subject to being sued individually by a seller that they may have misrepresented something to, which is what happened in the cases.
Okay, and if they are bringing, let's say, a buyer to a listing and to show a property that it is listed in the MLS, how that is gonna work
It's
out?
called you're allowed to show them, and it's called a Thompson broker. There's some court cases on in Florida.
So it's doable and still, the deal can still happen.
Yes.
But
They would not, you know, as a listing agent, you may ask the buyer's agent, are you working with the buyer exclusively? They may say yes, they may not have an exclusive buyer broker agreement signed, but they can still answer that question, yes. Because they're not subject to any of these rules. They don't need something signed prior to touring the home.
So they're still, okay, all right.
I would say that as a realtor, your world is being a lot more complicated on the commission side. Because it's kind of like three-dimensional chess. And it's much more like commercial real estate always has been. And that you have to negotiate everything all the way to closing. If you've got an as-is contract, you come into the inspection period, you're coming to the end of the inspection period, and the buyer just isn't real happy, they're thinking about terminating, you all need to be prepared to renegotiate the commission, both sides, listing and selling. They have to work it out to keep these deals together.
But we're protected under the NAR settlement because we are members of the board and NAR.
Right.
If we decide
If you're a
not,
member of the local board, you're a member of any others.
we're protected by the settlement. But if we leave, then we're no longer protected, we're exposed. Am I correct?
If you sign up, if you are a member of the class on August 17th, and you've done all the brokerage, done the paperwork, then you should be fine. If you leave your brokerage after August 17th, I'm not sure the answer to that question. I would have to look that up. Unfortunately, I'm really good at real estate closings, not so good at class action litigation and federal. So I gotta be honest with you, I actually had a couple of questions. We were on a webinar with NAR Council before realtors a couple weeks ago. We were asking questions, and he didn't even know all the rules. If you violate the settlement, or if you are not a member of the the parties that are protected on the settlement, you could be sued individually in state or federal, depending on the jurisdiction. All right, so yes.
What else is required other than the buyer broker agreement?
What do you mean? What else requires signing the buyer broker agreement? What do you mean?
Yeah, with the consumer. what are the other agreements that are required?
Well, if you have to give the single agent notice for single agent with the no brokerage relationship, if you're no brokerage relationship with the buyer, but you would do that through using the correct form. So really, if you use the Florida Realtor form, you should be fine. You shouldn't have to do anything else. So, all right, so let's talk about getting paid in the contract. So compensation in the sales contract, if you remember a couple of things. The sales contract is between the buyer and the seller. You are not a party to the sales contract. You could become a third-party beneficiary, however, proper language is added. There's a case in Florida that says that realtors are not third-party beneficiaries to sales contracts unless they're specifically included. So the next step is ask the listing agent, the seller's broker, or sellers paying compensation. Why do you ask it that way? Who's paying the co-broker? Because the listing agreements under Florida Realtors have 3 checkboxes. Seller's broker is offering co-broke. Seller is offering compensation directly to the buyer's broker, or no compensation is being offered. So you need to know how to phrase your question to get your compensation. If the seller's broker is paying, you will need a different form that we're going to go over in a minute. If the seller is paying, you're going to want to put the language right in the sales contract or use one of the compensation agreement forms that Florida Realtors provides. Yes? Your question? So I came up with a couple of phrases I've been offering to realtors if you were going to put compensation in the contract. Seller shall pay the buyer's broker identified. Remember, it's buyer's broker, and changing all that to buyer's broker in the contract. This is for the car bar contract. Seller shall pay the buyer's broker identified below X percentage of the purchase price at closing is buyer's broker compensation. Or a dollar amount, seller shall pay the buyer's broker identified below X dollars at closing is buyer's broker compensation. You write that into the additional terms of your contract. You got it? Okay. The alternative, and this is why you ask those questions up front, is to use the Florida Realtors compensation agreements. There are 2, and then there's modifications to each. The seller's broker to buyer's broker and the seller to buyer's broker. Notice the difference? Co-broke versus seller credit. So this is the seller's broker to buyer's broker. We're going to zoom in on it. Just take a quick look. We basically have a couple of sections, 2 pages. This is page 1. So this is, you put the seller's broker, the buyer's broker, the property address, and if you want to identify the buyer with more specificity, you put the buyer. You put the term. This is effective on delivery and on execution and delivery to all parties. That's your effective date. So you sign this today and you don't deliver it until tomorrow. It's effective tomorrow for so many days. There's an automatic extension, and there's a terminate, and it terminates when the listing ends. Remember, this is the compensation agreement between the buyer's broker and the seller's broker. And then you have your compensation. You put how much you're getting paid as a dollar amount, percent of the purchase price plus a fee, or other, and then you could have other terms. At Florida Realtors, they joke for this is where you're paid in horses. Other terms. Oh, that's fun. I'm sure. And then you've got an arbitration provision. And then on the miscellaneous clause. So the miscellaneous clause in this agreement is actually very important because it contains the integration clause. This agreement represents the entire agreement and understanding between the parties. And as to the subject matter herein, it supersedes all prior or contemporaneous agreements, whether written or oral. What does that mean? That means that those 2,000 text messages you just exchanged with the seller's agent to get to the point where you figure out what the broker compensation is gonna be, don't count. They said X percent, and then Y percent ends up on this agreement, you're getting paid Y. Unless Y is different than what's on your buyer broker agreement, then you only get what's on your buyer broker. So one thing you have to do, I just had this case yesterday. The agent didn't understand the rules, listing offering something, the seller was giving a credit, she had a buyer broker agreement, and she sends me a commission verification form that I sent out of my office and nothing matched. Not one thing was the same. So you've got to be careful. You're going to get paid what's in this compensation agreement and what's in your relative to what's in your buyer broker. And the brokers sign the date and the agreements between the brokers. Questions about that? Yes.
The seller is paying the buyer's broker.
No, the seller's broker. Careful, because the next contract
Yeah.
is about the seller to the buyer.
So let's say seller broker is paying the buyer broker.
Yep.
That need to be disclosed to the buyer.
Absolutely in writing prior to payment and to the seller.
Okay.
The seller must approve the compensation. So that's going to be in the listing agreement, the co-broker in the listing agreement. Right? So there's 3 blanks in the listing agreement. You want to make this match the listing agreement, and you want to amend your buyer broker to match both of these. So you got a modification form. And we'll talk about zoom in. So you can later, if you sign a compensation agreement, and then you are having an issue where it doesn't match the buyer broker, or the deal needs to be modified to make it work for the lender. And don't forget, by the way, all these things, the lender is out here. And they control. They say the buyer can't pay X, they gotta pay something else because of the independent party contribution limits or anything else. Whatever the rule is, whatever the specific lender product rule is. We gotta amend. This is the form to amend. Modification to compensation agreement, seller's broker to buyer's broker. And you change the terms, put other terms, and sign. So the seller also has a modification agreement, or a commission agreement. Very similar, except you do not have a blank for the buyer, because you wouldn't identify the buyer to the seller. Term of the agreement, the compensation, other terms. And then you also have the ability to modify seller to buyer's broker as the seller to broker to buyer's broker. All right, there are more compensation forms coming. 2 new writers to the FAR bar contract, FF and GG. You'll be able to modify the compensation and do the compensation right in the sales contract with the form. So when those forms are published, I would say use the form, do not use the language that I just gave you as to write into the other terms and conditions. Use the forms. They're clear, they're pretty decent forms. I'm on the committee that helps write them, although I'm not the author. I did like them, but they work fine. They require final approval from Florida Realtors and the Florida Bar, so I don't know when they're going to be out, but be on the lookout for FF and GG. Questions about that? All right. To wrap up, I got a couple slides left. We'll talk about some tips and tricks to getting those buyer broker agreements signed. So basically, I've been doing this 20 years. I've been strictly real estate for 16 and a half. I've done about 20,000, a little less than 20,000 transactions. I've seen a lot of crazy things. A lot of fraud, a lot of realtor problems, a lot of buyer problems, a lot of sellers trying to get out deals. So I'm going to talk to you as buyer agents on what you can do to answer these things. Number one, most important, I think, is stay educated. You got to be the best. That means you got to be the smartest. That means you got to know the most. You need to know local market knowledge, inventories, the offer process, form. Every guys went, you guys really should have these forms memorized, so that when the other agent says, okay, let's do this, you can say, form for that is GG, up to 10 minutes. Know the local terrain. Everybody here know the flood maps? Who looks at the flood maps? Good. 1, 2, 3, 4 of you, good. No, that's the most important thing in those insurance requirements. Sell X zone properties. Be prepared to give advice, consult, provide insight on all things real estate all the time. Everybody here read like Indeed or Housing Wire or Wall Street Journal, there's a lot of real estate stuff in it. I would honestly get subscriptions, one or more of those, and just know what's going on. It floats around. You know, you hear a local report in the news about something about a 6% thing is no longer in place for realtors. And it's like, what is that? Oh, that's different. That's new. You can explain to them. It's happening. Lawsuit, the commissions have always been negotiable. Be accessible. The market moves really fast. Your customers know this. So you got to be prepared 24/7 to get the job done. I love this quote from Indian News. I have a better one at the end, but this is one of my favorites. And it seems to be coming true. We'll find out if buyer broker agreements make you say richer. Then learn to do research. So a couple things to think about. You know, you've got HOA rules and regulations, covenants, budgets, dues, assessments, litigation, county, zoning, permitting issues, insurance. We talked about that. Understanding the deeds and the surveys, that's knowing title, and then be the source of the source. Everybody here have a good stable? A good person for everything? Somebody to call for a question, CPA, contractor, repairman, everything? Super important. And then you got to build relationships that last, and you do that by having a great reputation. If you're a buyer's agent, and you're known as somebody who's going to get the deal done because you bring serious buyers, because you have a good vetting process for your buyers, because you ask a lot of tough questions like, can you afford this property so you don't waste my time? You're going to be the one the listing agent gives more information to, like what's the compensation? Be the source of the source, solve problems, be an indispensable resource. You know, you're professionals. You always were professionals, now you're really professionals. You are expected to know things. As a matter of fact, it's funny, think of this. I was just looking at chapter 475 because a broker asked me a question about agent brokerage services and agent duties. When I was reading through them, realtors are professionals under the 4 statutes, chapter 95. It's like lawyers and doctors.
We're considered experts the moment we get a license.
That's right. That's exactly what that means.
You go in front of a judge, and even if you've never closed a deal, you are considered an expert. Just
that's what chapter 95 is the evidence code. That's exactly right. All right. So you asked about, I said 105 ways. I went the wrong number. 179 ways agents are worth every penny. I would read this publication. It's an NAR publication. It's a selling tool. If you're asking the question, what do I do? Who am I? What do I do for others? It's in here. So read this. And I love this. Buyer's representation is quite comprehensive and involves ongoing communication, being extremely proactive, problem solving, troubleshooting, double and triple checking, following up and assuming nothing is as it has been purported to be. Buyers don't know what they don't know, and those who don't know have representation often find themselves in a problem or situation that can have serious financial implications. The bottom line, you save the buyer money. They pay you X, it's going to cost them a lot more than X if you'll get screwed up. Attorney's fees, lost deposits, lost time, you have a value. Now just tell them what it is. Questions?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know you guys have verbiage for the compensation. So say you talk to a listing agent and they say, no, we're not offering anything or it's negotiable. So you would write that in the as is. Would you add the buyer broker or?
So you have 2 choices. You can do the compensation agreement, or you can write it in the sales contract. Here's the difference. The compensation agreement is a separate contract between the brokers, between the seller and the buyer's broker. The sales contract between the seller and the buyer could get signed, could get delivered, could get closed, and you could still not get paid if you have something that says you get paid. So if the seller or the seller's broker won't sign a compensation agreement, then you need a condition in the sales contract that says you get paid from the seller. So that's one way to do it. Now, when those writers come out, at FMGG, when they come out, one of them says you get paid in the sales contract. The other one says the sales contract is contingent upon the brokers entering into a compensation agreement. So I would say for now, if you're having a problem getting a compensation agreement signed before you make your offer, put your compensation in the offer and have the seller pay. The seller can then work it out with the listing agent, where the listing agent can come back to you and say, we're not doing that. But at least you're negotiating and you're not getting screwed. And remember, before all of this happens, you need to have a buyer broker agreement signed so you know what your comp is. So you put X in your buyer broker, that X goes on the sales contract, and that X gets negotiated with the seller or the seller's broker, and then you got to go back and amend everything.
Yeah, and one of the contracts stipulates that if the seller is not paying the commission, you don't need to show that profit. Am I correct?
So no, so in the NABOR contract, in the NABOR buyer broker agreement, it says concessions. You can screen based on concessions. I should have said this earlier. You cannot screen based on compensation. The difference between concessions and compensation. So if a seller is offering seller concessions for prepays and closing costs, mortgage, then that's fine. If the buyer needs that money, it's okay to screen for that. But you cannot screen based on compensation or commissions. Yes.
So if the buyer contract is for 3%.
Yeah.
Let's say
That's
X percent. So what if the seller is offering more percent or less percent?
so if you have a buyer broker agreement X. The listing is offering more. You would need to amend the buyer broker agreement to come up to the more, and you'll probably expect to share some of that more with your buyer who's paying attention. If the listing is Y more than X, you're going to split the difference probably with the smart buyer.
If it's less,
if it's less, then you can go to the buyer and say the compensation being offered by the seller is Y less than X. You owe me X, so the seller is going to pay Y, and you owe me the difference. And you're entitled to that because you have negotiated that X up front before the process started, the start of the process. Now, is that a great way to get a one-star review from the buyer? Absolutely. So you need to be prepared to lower your X to the Y if it's less, or have something worked out with your buyer to understand that they're going to pay you the difference. They need to understand that up front and early. Otherwise, they're going to be really mad at you and ask you to do one-star review.
But I've already done that, where the seller has paid Y and the buyer has paid the difference.
you're still going to show all the properties, irrespective of
The compensation, yeah, you're supposed to show all the properties. You wouldn't want to be caught steering and discriminating based on compensation. So if you use the showing agreement and it says X percent, and then you go find out if you listed 5 properties on the showing agreement that the X is less, I would still show all 5 and work it out.
That's what I'm trying to understand correctly. On the agreement, I'm hearing people will say, like, a buyer will be like, I don't want to see any property except they're not offering me compensation. So they put it in the contract.
Yeah, there's a lot of brokers that are doing that. And if you get clear direction from your buyer in writing, Florida law says you're supposed to follow the direction of the customer. So if the buyer would, and there are brokers that are making their own buyer broker agreements that says, I elect not to see any properties where there's no compensation, or I don't mind checkbox. Put checkbox in their agreement. I would not do that. I would be very careful about that because the way this whole thing is going to be policed is other agents catching you doing something wrong and reporting you to MLS, you get fined. or telling their favorite local attorney, and then you get sued.
We're going to Frank.
Yeah, well, Freck wouldn't rule on this, but,
Yeah, because I've had buyers that told me like, I don't wanna see anything. like-
right, there's no compensation.
Yeah.
And you will have to work through that with them. If they tell you that in writing, then you got direction from your customer, from the consumer, as to what they want to see, and you can shrink.
And I tell them too, like, just because they're not offering it, doesn't mean we can't.
Well, that's the other thing, is they want everything to be negotiated. So if you sign your buyer broker at X, and then you find out that nothing's being offered from the seller, put it in the sales contract and see what they say. Maybe they've gotten 10 offers, they were all lowballs, and yours is a little bit higher, but they gotta pay some compensation. So maybe it's a better deal for the seller anyways. Because you don't know, I mean, you're supposed to know, but you don't know if the market's over, if the property's overpriced. You don't know what the seller's hearing from other people, maybe they want to dump it, who knows?
So real quick, as long as it's not in the MLS, and I'm just reiterating, as long as it's not in the MLS, anything about compensation, 2 clicks away, if you have the listing, you can disclose, offering compensation.
You put on everything but the MLS.
Everything but the
It could be in your
MLS.
flyers, your emails, your signs, your business card, we pay compensation. There's a realtor, full disclosure, I'm related to her, who just sent out a huge email, says we pay compensation.
Now, between the buyer agent and the listing agent or the seller's agent, can they have that conversation as well? Hey, I see you're listing at 123 Happy Street. Are you guys offering compensation? We can have that conversation?
Sure.
Okay.
That's what you have to do.
Just keep it on the
Even
list.
before you show it?
You want to do that
Okay.
for sure. You want to know going into it what the compensation is, so your buyer broker agreement can match, and save a bunch of amendments later. If they won't tell you, or if there's some issue, that's when you get into all this other stuff.
When you put an offer, and you put it in the offer about compensation, would you recommend if they do agree to add that, let's say they say the seller's gonna pay? Would you recommend, even if it's in the as-is, for us to also have that signed? from
The
seller?
compensation agreement?
Yeah. Protect you.
Yeah, because you probably didn't write all the terms and everything into the sales contract, you probably just wrote the phrase I gave you, so if they'll sign a compensation, it doesn't hurt. Just make sure it all matches.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what you're saying is then basically.
She was saying, if you make an offer and you've got one of those phrases in there that says, seller shall pay X compensation to the buyer's broker, and then the seller agrees to it, should you follow up with one of the form compensation agreements? And I'm saying that's not a terrible idea.
So is that the same thing, I'm sorry, is that the same thing that if they don't wanna pay, and the person wants that particular home, you go back and say, okay, I know it's 50,300, let's put it 310, let's sign the agreement on that, so that compensation is factored into the new
You can
loan?
do that, that's just like a concession for an FHA loan, the same thing.
Okay.
But the problem that I see is that when the appraisal comes back, and it comes lower.
Right,
then
yeah,
it-
if it's a finance deal, then all bets are off.
all bets are off.
So
Right.
that would only work if appraises to what it is. Alright.
So our broker's instructing us that before we show the property, we call to ask about compensation.
Sure.
And at that point, we're also asking, is that compensation from the listing brokerage or from the seller?
Right, that's a great question.
So that we know which one of these forms to use.
Exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. Is there compensation? Yes, great. You paying it or is the seller paying it? And then you know which brokerage form, compensation form you use, and then how much is it?
Right.
So you can fill out the form. And I've been hearing some smaller brokerages, we're not telling anybody anything, we're not doing anything. At the bigger brokerages, I thought this would be the opposite. The bigger brokerages are saying, you got a listing agreement signed with competent, just tell them what the damn number is.
Right.
So however your brokerage works it out, it's a strategy, it's gonna be a case-by-case basis, and I hope that there's more disclosure than less disclosure, because, like, for example, the Neighbor listing agreement says shall, the seller, the listing broker shall pay the buyer's broker. So if you have to pay it, then disclose it. Now, the Florida Realtor's listing agreement makes it a little bit more ambiguous, but I still think it should be disclosed as a matter of opinion, not as legal precedent.
This was Awesome.
Thank you.
We're gonna do it again. It's too much information for one shot. Let's hear it
So
for-
if you guys want the slides, I'm happy to share them. My business card is right back there. It's just a QR code. Just drop it in your phone, email me, and I'll send you this to say I want the slides from the bootcamp.
Let's hear it for Sam. So next, we're gonna have our financial advisor, right? Now we're gonna hear a little bit from the other side. So, let's take 2 minutes. If anybody needs to return a text, a call, use a potty, but I'm so happy you guys are here today because this is going to take practice. This is not gonna be a one-shot, deal. And, make sure you have Sam's side in your speed dial, in your phone, right? Yes, in your favorites, not the speed dial, I just dated myself, but in your favorites because it's going to take a village to close deals in this new real estate landscape. It's gonna take you surrounding yourself with expert advisors that when you're having these consultations with your buyers, you can showcase, I've got a team of expert advisors, like I've got Sam, and we could reach out and he shows up. So thank you so much, Sam, I appreciate that. 2 minutes and we'll go into the next session and then we will be done on time. Okay, all righty, thank you so much for coming.
Good seeing you, Sam. Great class. Every time I see it, I learn another thing.
Yeah.
Good question.
So, ¿cómo terminó aquí?
Sure. This is what? Oh, yeah, so the business is not on the rental? Okay. What do you want to do? You want the business, that's an LLC, to own the property? No, that's a deed, yeah, we can do that, yes, that's easy. So if you call me, send me an email, let me know the address, what you want to do, the name of the company. I can, have Jerry in my office, call you back. in 10 minutes. It's easy. Advantage, she charges, it's $18.50 for the LLC. Is the LLC formed already? Okay, so it's $6.50 for the deed.
We'll let them back. LLC.
Lunch.
Oh, the own the property? Yeah, you decide what property they put it, oh, put it in trust, but you don't get access protection. I would say go on mortgage, someone's using the property anyways. You have access protection. That's the one. I mean, you can use the LLC as a management company, to create some liability for you personally, but I wouldn't choose. That's the problem. Yeah. You want to say about that? So want to make it conventional? Why? It's
No, the problem is like the conventional, you pay like at the time, it's gonna go down. 50, no matter if you're gonna pay.
You pay that, you know. Every year, give you one payment?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same regardless, but you owe less principal and pay less interest. But you pay the same amount every year.
Yeah.
But you can't change it. It's refinance. Cool. Hello. Good question. Sure. Sure. Yeah. You don't have the realistic agreement. Yeah, that's, you are a member.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Like you have the price. Yeah, it's still.
So we're still like, okay, let me introduce you. You get to sit in the blue chair, okay.
Well, then.
No, well, I introduced it. Oh, yeah, I think yeah. Okay, all right, let's move into the next session real quick. We wanted to give you the whole kit and caboodle, we wanted to give you the whole experience, right? So I kicked it off kind of like from a coach's perspective, letting you guys know, hey, this is gonna take practice. This is not gonna be a one-shot deal. This is gonna be something that now you have to get the skill sets, the mindset, and the tool sets. And Sam gave us the best tool sets. And let me tell you, you need to practice, because when you're out there showing these 5 properties and they fall in love with the one across the street, you have to know where to click, where to go, where to input, where to sign, if you don't have that paperwork with you, because technology is our friend, except when we don't know how to use it. So Sam talked about app files. I've got app files for my real estate organization. If you don't have app files, and this is I'm not advertising them for any reason, but I'm saying if you don't, then you need to know how to use, what's the name of where we get Form Simplicity. If you have not gone into Form Simplicity, if you have not filled out the forms on Form Simplicity, if you don't know how to click, send, and go on Form Simplicity, you must prepare now. You know, there's a very good coach that says, be ready so you don't have to get ready. Be ready so you don't have to get ready. And I think that's where we shoot ourselves in the foot, because we don't get ready. So when the opportunity comes, that's when we're getting ready. And I have another one of my coaches that says, if you're going to prepare when the opportunity shows up, it's too late. It's too late. I mean, the odds are against you. So now we're going to move into the finance part, where I want my dear friend and strategic partner, Chris Larson, to, let's talk about those concessions. Let's talk about the real deal, the raw that they are seeing on the finance side, and how can we get these concessions paid? How can we get these concessions in there as part of the buyer's closing cost? Because I look at this from a 30,000, foot bird's eye view, where you have to position yourself so strategically when talking to buyers so you can get an opportunity to date them. Otherwise, they're going to move on. And just in our local association, there's 8,999 other ones of you. So you are not, right? You have to become it. So Chris Larson, super, super nice guy, very experienced, very knowledgeable, very user-friendly, I like to say, because when we have customers, he comes in here, he meets with our people, face-to-face, nose-to-nose, belly-to-belly, toes-to-toes, like I like it, right? No dating on the phone. Don't be selling real estate on the phone. That will no longer work. You got to get in front of people. So let's hear it for Chris. Come on up, Chris, and tell us the real raw deal.
Thanks,
There
Lucy.
you go.
Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
So I'm going to talk about some different ways that if the seller isn't offering to pay the buyer's agent side, that you can get some of it paid or all of it paid. None of these are a magic bullet. Financing still is going to be limited to purchase price. There's not a way to add the buyer's agent commission on top of purchase price in the financing. So it's just some sort of moving the shells around, so to speak. But let's, okay, each of you are gonna have a card. So that's how you guys can get one. First of all, good news. So I give a call to the #1 realtor in Minnesota, because I don't know the #1 realtor in Florida. And she told me that of 9 buy-side offers that she's made since and had accepted since the new settlement came into effect, that all of them were, the seller was offering to pay the buyer's agent. All of those. Minnesota's a hotter market. It's a seller's market. If it's 350,000 or less, you got 20 offers. The market is way more in favor of the buyer here, so the seller would be much more likely to have to offer the buyer side here than there. So that's good news to start. But let's see. 5 ways towards getting the buyer's commission. The first one is obvious, but I wanted to talk about a couple specifics. Negotiate a higher price and, raise the price, get the agent paid and, have the same net. A couple important things. The seller concession towards the buyer's closing costs does not affect the ability to also get the buyer's agent paid. They're 2 separate things. One goes to the buyer, one goes to the buyer's agent. So when you have a max of 3% seller concessions, for example, on a conventional deal, 3% can go towards buyer's closing costs. And you can still, on top of that, ask for it would be a separate addendum requesting the buyer's agent gets paid. So it's important to know that one doesn't affect the other. They're 2 separate issues completely. That's really important to know. Because some people are asking for seller concessions to pay the buyer's agent, and that's not the way that it needs to be done. So, second of all, and I think Sam talked about it a little bit, when you do that, you're grossing up that offering price, and then your appraised value is at risk. So that you got to keep that in mind. Here, people are willing to lower their prices. You got a little more leeway on the buy side, so you might not have to raise the offer price in order to ask for the buyer's agent fees as well. But just keep in mind, once you're grossing that up for seller concessions plus the buyer's agent fee, you're looking at about 5.5%, 6% of a gross up, and the appraisal is at risk. So keep that in mind. But that's the best, that's the best way to put it. Well. Oops. There we go. You guys all have an admin fee for your companies. It's $4.95, $5.95, something like that. Lucy, how much is yours? Oops, sorry.
$4.95.
Just to go by.
It doesn't have to go back. $4.95.
I have one realtor I work with that she does non-MLS stuff, and for whatever reason, she always asks me to put a $19.95 admin fee.
Oh, wow.
So that gets paid by the seller concessions. That's considered a closing cost for the buyer. Yeah, so you can, now I don't know how much you can push it before underwriting is gonna push back on it and say, hey, this is a huge admin fee. But I haven't had a problem with that $19.95, and I've done that several times.
Wow.
So it's not gonna get your entire buyer's agent fee paid, but it's an additional piece. If you've got, let's say, seller concessions, but you don't have additional seller contributions towards the buyer's agent. So, okay. Offer a lower down payment percentage. This is only if they have enough down payment if they're looking to give 3% down payment on a conventional loan or 3.5% down on an FHA, you don't have any margin to work with. But let's say they're giving 10% down on a conventional. Well, they can give 7.5% down and use that 2.5% to pay. You're going to need to work with your loan officer. The loan officer is going to really need to convince them that, look, it's going to make this much of a difference in payment. The mortgage insurance factor is going to change by this much. in the end, but look, you're gonna get into a house, you're gonna have to team up with your loan officer to sort of convince the buyers to go ahead with that. But yeah, again, if they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel just to get the down payment, this isn't an option, but it is an option when they have a little bit of extra money and want to give a larger down payment. So, get a portion paid indirectly through a lender credit. The reason I say indirectly is that will offset closing costs for the borrower. The lender credit can't be applied towards down payment. It can't be applied towards the buyer's agent commission. However, if you raise the rate, you can get a lender credit. So they're going to look at a higher interest rate. They'll have lower closing costs that'll free up more money to give to you. Generally,
Sorry, can you repeat that part? Sorry.
okay, just all of it.
Just the last part.
Huh?
The last part, 10% of interest rate.
So so there's an interest rate, right now, let's say the interest rate is 6.5%. But you can pay a point and lower that interest rate to 6.25 or 6.12. You can also get a credit by raising that interest rate. So if you take 6.75 or 6.875 instead of 6.5, you could get a point of credit. So, and then that would lower closing costs by, 1% of the transaction, and that will free up that money for a portion to go to you guys. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
On this one, let's say the lender is giving a credit, like an X percentage, and then all of it may not go into the closing credit. Maybe some balance is left over.
There wouldn't be so much of a credit. You're realistically, you're only going to get about 1% of a lender credit, and that's going to reduce those closing costs. Closing costs are around 3%, a little bit more than 3%. So it's going to reduce their closing costs, and that's going to free up money to move over to the buyer's agent commission side. And that's, again, why I said it's indirectly, because it lowers one group of costs in order for them to move that money over to pay. But you would never get a high enough lender credit that you could pay everything. So
I'm missing the first point though. The charge on high admin fee.
the admin fee, what is the admin fee for your real estate company? Is it $595, $495,
Some 375.
$375? So you could charge a higher admin fee, which is considered a buyer's closing cost. So if you had seller concessions, buyer's closing costs, you could charge an admin fee, and like I said, the highest I've gone is $19.95, so a little less than $2,000. And so that's a way to get a little bit more money, because I know that if you guys charge a higher admin fee than your broker really is charging, the overage goes in your pocket as additional commission, I think. So that's a way to, if you have seller concessions towards the buyer's closing costs, but you don't have a seller contribution towards the agent's commission, you can charge a higher admin fee and put a little additional money in pocket that. But again, you don't want to push it too far, because at some point an underwriter is going to look and say, this isn't an admin fee, this is a commission, and game's over.
Yeah.
So let's see. Did I answer everything as far as? Okay. Simple one. Work with builders. Almost all builders are gonna pay. So you're gonna, you offer a new construction, they get to design their own house, it's brand new, it comes with the warranties, all these benefits. A lot of times they have the lender incentives, $10,000 or a lower interest rate. You know, I hate to talk about somebody that's not me having a good deal, but the builders, lenders do. So, that's gonna get you, you know, that's gonna get you paid every time. Lucy,
Yes.
does your husband pay all the buyer's agents?
So that's a good question. If, you know, we're finding that it depends on the price of the property. So like you just said, the answer is yes, as long as the property that he's selling is at fair market value. If he gives a liquidation price like he's been doing recently, then he's allowing, obviously, there's enough equity in the home for the commission to be added on. So like in the last two that he sold, because he's been selling them at below market value, these properties have been appraising for an additional 25,000. So the buyers have been happy because they're still adding in. Like I had one of the buyer's agents put in like $6,000 for their commission, and their buyer was still walking in with equity.
Oh.
So you need to know your market, you need to know your product, so that, because that's what it's gonna take, negotiating, you know, and finding those right price points so that the buyers go in knowing, hey, there's enough money in the deal for me to cover my concessions, cover my, you know, compensation, and still walk away with equity. So he does, but not on liquidation prices, but he's giving away the home for, you know, $25,000 below market price.
Okay.
And we're gonna be seeing more of that because, as everybody knows, the market has slowed down. So there's a lot of builders building homes that are just sitting there.
Yeah, it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market right now. You guys walked into, you know, the Florida market where, you know, it's not as much of a challenge to get paid as.
And I think that's a good strategy to go visit builders and say, hey, are you open to me promoting your home at a liquidation price? I mean, we hear liquidation prices in the regular, you know, marketplace all the time. So we need to take some of those strategies into our negotiation tool belt.
I know that at your event where there was that gentleman from Lennar, that was quite some time ago, but he said, we pay all the, you know, we pay commission to all the buyers.
Right.
Tracy, her company, is that Miranda Homes?
Miranda Homes, yeah. They also did, yeah.
They
So
pay-
everybody's doing different things, so yeah. It's time to revisit those.
So, like I said, nothing's a silver bullet here, but it's a way to get some portion or the entire amount of your buyer's agent fee paid. And in good news, it looks like most of the sellers or the listing agents are gonna build in buyer's agent compensation to their prices as well. So hopefully you won't have to encounter it very often.
I have a question. How is this all being handled once it gets to underwriting? Can you give us some ideas on that?
As far
Side.
as,
Once it gets to underwriting, is there special verbiage we should be using for the underwriters? How are they seeing all this? How is it being handled?
it's important that the buyer's agent compensation is a separate line, a separate addendum from the seller's concessions towards the buyer's closing costs. So let's say you're asking for 3% for buyer's closing costs and another 2.5% for agent comp. You don't want to say seller agrees to pay 5.5% for closing costs and prepaids and buyer's agent commission.
Okay, can
You
you
need to-
dissect that a little, for the benefit of everyone, can you
Yeah.
dissect that a little bit more? Because that's good to know.
So what you want to do is put it in two separate lines. Just seller agrees to pay 3% towards buyer's closing costs and prepaids, and then
Separate line.
space. Seller agrees to pay 2.5% towards buyer's agent commission.
Oh, but that's very clear.
And what's the reason for that?
Because,
Because at the end of the day, they're all part of the buyer's closing costs. I'm just curious, for learning purposes.
because closing costs are considered the transactional costs.
Oh,
The commission is just considered a separate part of the transaction.
okay.
So closing costs are the title, the appraisal, mortgage registration tax, the intangible tax, and then the escrow reserves for homeowners insurance, property taxes, flood insurance, all those items. So it's transactional costs and then basically escrow reserves. And then the commission is, and I think it was set up because before the commission was 100%, behind the
In
scenes.
the package.
Yeah, so it was nothing they had to deal with before. So they just don't see it as part of the buyer's closing costs. So, but now it is.
Now it's.
So just two separate lines, because we have maxes for, 3% for conventional, 6% for FHA, VA, there's a max of 4% if you're also paying off debt. VA is a different animal. Or it's unlimited if it's just covering closing costs. So, in order to specify what's going for what, it's just important to separate it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Would we get the templates of the underwriting?
The templates for the,
Underwriting, like, what are the items that are involved? What are the items that need to be taken into account?
what does the underwriting look for as
Yeah.
far as like financing qualification?
Yeah, and like after the underwriting is done, what are the factors that they take into consideration?
So
Like,
they're gonna look at your credit, your income, your assets, which is gonna be your down payment amount, and then the properties. So those are the four factors. The three factors that apply to your client is their credit, their income, and then how much are they putting down for the property. The property itself, all that signifies is if you're qualified to buy a single family home, you can't buy a gas station. If you're qualified for a duplex, you can't buy a single family home because we're including the other unit of the duplex as additional income. So you need to purchase the property type that you qualify for. But beyond that, credit, the income, the assets, or the down payment is clients. And that's what they're looking for.
I meant like when you do the underwriting, right? For the loan.
Yeah.
What are the items that you include? Like, let's say, home insurance, flood.
Yeah. So basically, like most recent check stubs, last 2 years W-2s, if they're employees, homeowners insurance contact info, flood insurance contact info, photo ID, bank statements, maybe 401k statements or additional asset statements, annuity statements or investment statements if they're needed, depending on what's going on in the transaction. It's mostly the financial stuff, and then, the homeowner's insurance and the flood insurance if needed, that contact info, and then that just gets set up behind the scenes. It gets paid out of the closing costs. And closing. So mostly it's just the income and the assets that you're.
So you also look into like county taxes, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you need to look and see how much the property taxes are. Because that's included in your monthly payment. And that's part of the debt to income ratio calculation where you've got a maximum amount of debt you can have for your income. So if the taxes are really high on the property, it's going to affect, whether or not you can qualify. And vice versa, if it's cheaper, you can qualify for more. So in some counties, taxes are a lot higher in the same price property than other counties. So.
If the lender and the agent agrees to use some of the points to contribute, right? How is that handled? Is there like an addendum that has to be made for everybody to sign, or how does that work out?
For
The points?
to pay the buyer's agent or
Yeah.
you just need to include it, like I think on page 12 of the purchase contract, there's
The additional terms?
So you just, in there, you just say, a seller agrees to pay 2.5% towards.
But I
buy-
think she's asking, you were giving an example about, adding points.
Oh,
Yes.
getting a lender credit.
Correct.
Getting a lender credit. That's gonna reduce their closing costs. So that's why I call it
Okay.
an indirect way. So that's gonna reduce their closing costs. That frees up additional money
For compensation.
to pay.
Okay, so there's no separate addendum to be assigned?
No,
Does the buyer have to be made aware of that, like disclose that that's gonna happen?
yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a conversation with the loan officer because they're gonna have to say, hey, if you wanna be able to do this, we're gonna need to raise the interest rate in order, and then you're gonna get this much credit. And if we're raising the interest rate this much, it's gonna affect your monthly payment by X amount monthly. Yeah, yeah. So, just to be transparent.
Okay.
But, you just sort of need to be in collaboration with the loan officer. And as long as you're both on the same page and saying, this is how we're gonna get it done, and this is how much it's gonna affect you monthly, in order that we can get the transaction completed. When they have limited funds, you just sort of, squeezing blood out of a turnip, and so
Right.
you just gotta explain to them, this is how we're doing it.
It's like putting on tight jeans. Okay, any other questions?
What are the banks that you work with?
We're brokers, we've got more than 100 different lenders. They're wholesale lenders, so it's not, I don't work with like Wells Fargo or Chase or anything like that. You walk in and they have a loan officer, and they have Wells Fargo loan for you, or Chase loan. It's sort of like if you went to State Farm for car insurance, or you went to an independent agency that's got like 40 companies. So that's the same, but it's the mortgages. We've got over 100 different lenders. So we got everything.
Well, you guys are gonna get to, hang out. Let's hear it for Chris. Thank you so much. Let me tell you. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're so good.
I was holding.
And I'm smaller than you. You also want to have Chris Larson as part of your expert advisors. He is extremely knowledgeable. He is extremely, customer service friendly. He comes here and meets with, our customers all the time when we need him. And, again, it's going to take you making yourself that outperformer in the market. If you talk like every other agent, if you do what every other agent does, if you show up unprepared like most of the agents, in the consumer's mind, you're just like everybody else. There's no value. So that's what we're going to keep doing here at the Academy. We're going to continue to do these boot camps. I hope all of you see Talia and take advantage of that challenge that I am offering you, because as you can see, this is going to be a tactical, get in the trenches, let's practice sport. Okay, so just want to remind you, it's going to be a challenge. Okay, it's going to be outperforming the competition, if you want to call it challenge, with our new real estate landscape. And it's going to be 2 hours for 5 days on Zoom, really hammering down how we are going to do this, how we're going to make the play-by-play, how are we going to, position ourselves, reinvent yourself, rediscover yourself. I don't know what you've been doing for buyer consultations, but I can tell you whatever you've been doing will no longer work. So, help us spread the word, but only for those of you that are here today, it's $47. So see Talia, get your name on wherever she's going to get your name so we don't lose you or have you missed out on that. But this is extremely valuable because you just saw what Sam Saad shared. I mean, that's going to take knowing what to do and how to do it. You just heard what Chris shared. That's going to take knowing what to do and how to do it. And then what I bring is the strategies, the innovation, okay? And how do you relaunch yourself? My job is to get you in the game, right? So I'm really happy you guys joined us today. Let's hang out for a little while, talk to each other, network, come see Chris, ask him more questions. And until next time, see you guys. Ciao.